Good to have you here. It's good to be here. It's really good to be here with all of you. It's heartening. It's really fulfilling and beautiful to know that uh, there's so many others who are really curious and interested in awakening the full divinity, the full dimensionality of this human experience that includes our spiritual dimension, our spiritual dynamics. And that's what satsang is for. It really is. It's the opportunity to come and sit and converse and explore and feel deeper into a more lush and rich and full dynamic of grace, of peace, of love that we are. And to start to awaken more and more from the very habitual dream of self, the egoic identity, which is, again, it's egoic identity is a necessary part of this whole experience. It's just, it's become so predominant that it is overtaken for most of the entire experience of this life. And it is veiled or clouded our perception of God, of source, of self. So it's good to have you here. A couple of just housekeeping things before we begin, or as we begin. So this Zoom session or meeting or satsang is being broadcast as well on YouTube. So if you happen to be viewing this on YouTube, either in real time or after the fact, please do subscribe to the channel so that you get notified of future satsangs, as well as I'm uploading 1 or 2 times a week now videos around conscious and peaceful and powerful living, and a bit of guidance around how to, again, live this life with a bit more conscious peace. So please subscribe to the channel. If you like the videos, do give them a thumbs up. I know that I often will watch a video and I'll love it, and I'll just forget to give it a thumbs up. And when we do, it makes it more available for other people. For us here today on Zoom, there's in the chat box, if you have any desire and ability, there's some opportunity to make a donation towards satsang, toward what it takes to put all this together. It's not necessary. It's an offering if you're able, but there's some links in there to be able to do so. But truly, this is a sharing of love. It's just, this is how love moves through me. I don't know any other way to be these days. Except for to share this really exciting and beautiful opening and awakening of love that is continuously revealing itself. All right. So I'm going to speak for a little bit, and I've something arrived this morning to talk about, to share. And then I want to make it available for anyone who wants to share, ask a question into a bit of the nuance around your practice, around your journey of awakening into your full divinity, your full dimensionality of being, and explore that a little bit. And we can talk about a little bit about nuance and how to open up our practices or deepen our practices even more. All right. So I think that's all the housekeeping stuff. I think that's it. And I've got my chat room opened up. So if anyone wants to send a question or a chat as I speak, as I share, please feel free to do so. And I'll try to remember to look down and check on that every once in a while. So welcome. I'm so glad you're all here. Take a deep breath. Take a couple of deep breaths. In fact, just keep taking deep breaths. And it doesn't have to be an exerted breath, but we actually come into a habit when we practice our breathing, when we practice being attentive to the breath and allowing the breath to be a vehicle that we follow in. We allow our awareness to follow the breath into the body, and we find a rested grace that is always present underneath the thoughts, underneath the opinions and the beliefs and the fears and the and everything, just everything that the mind generates. Underneath that, there's always just a resilient and always present grace and peace. And we can use the breath to follow the breath in and find this stability, this grace. And when we practice that enough, what you start to find is it just becomes the norm. I was speaking to somebody the other day, and after about an hour of us meeting, they said, your breath is just like you've just been at this like real chill calm. It's beautiful. It's what opens up. It's the nature of us, and that's what awakening is. It's awakening that calm, that consciousness that is not troubled by the mind, not troubled by the thoughts, not troubled by the egoic perceptions. So what I wanted to share today, what came this morning, besides this idea of well, it is this idea is really what came. Is that this whole life is it's an art form, isn't it? You all get that. It's an art form. It's a beautiful dance. It's an unfolding. And it takes really incredible patience. And it takes faith. It takes presence to be present and inquire and look and ask, what's happening? What is this whole experience? What is this whole dynamic? What are the dimensions of it? What is known and what is yet to be known? What is coming into being known? That contemplative presence is a part of this beautiful art form. And humility. Such humility of being willing to allow what's unfolding, to celebrate in that, and to recognize there's more and more and more and more, and it just keeps unfolding because it's really in the entire consciousness, the source of being, the ground of all being revealing itself. Like that's going to come to an end. Like you're going to hit a point and go, okay, got it all. So that humility of just being able to welcome and sit and listen and allow more revelation, more self-realization to keep unfolding. And this morning, I was visited by a thought, by a way of exploring this. Remember the movie City Slickers? A lot of people probably do. Some people may not. For those who don't, there was a cowboy, a guy who had lived his whole life out, sleeping under the stars and riding his horse through the grace of nature and being in the elements of the world, and that was his whole being. So he had a certain wisdom about him and a certain continence of peace, of stability, if you will. His name was Curly. You may remember him. He was Curly. And Curly was talking to Billy Crystal, and he said, there's one thing, if you really want to know what it is to be fully alive, to be to take full advantage of this beautiful life, there's one thing you have to know. And then I don't think he ever really reveals it, which is good, because that's what I wanted to look at this morning. What I'm finding is the one thing keeps changing. The invitation here is to deepen our practice by recognizing that from week to week or day to day or month to month, there might be one thing, one teaching, one guidance, one perspective, one opened knowing, something that blossoms, it blooms, another petal of the flower that unfolds of self. That's what consciousness is. That's what I am. Oh, that's interesting. I feel it differently than I ever did before. And maybe that revelation or realization came through a teaching. And it might have been a teaching, a pointing that maybe you've heard it before, but it didn't resonate. You weren't ready. That petal wasn't ready to open up. And the invitation here is to stay in our practice and to do our studies and to have patience and listen and find something in a pointing. It's like a teacher teaching us an art form, teaching us to play an instrument. Play the piano. They have to teach you where you are. You have to listen in and find the place that you're able to meet. And often it's said that the teacher needs to modify to meet the student where they are. And I don't personally resonate so much with that. I think the teachings just come, and the student can find the teaching or the pointing that is resonant with them at the time. And then to hear it, listen, allow it in, and then to play with it, to be with it, to rest with that teaching. It's called, a lot of the teachers and myself call it marinating. It's just marinating in something that opened you up a little bit, something that went, ooh, yeah, that feels good. That feels inviting. And I came upon this because the other evening I was listening to one of my teachers, Rupert Spira, and he didn't used to be one of my prime teachers, and he is now. But I moved through, and I like Gangaji, Adyashanti, Muji, Rupert Spira. These are just some of my primary go-tos, the people I go to keep opening me up, to keep helping me explore deeper. And I've kind of moved through those, and I keep going back. I'll listen to Gangaji again, or I'll listen to Adyashanti. But Rupert Spira currently speaks very deeply to where I currently am. And he was sharing something that it was so nuanced, and it just pierced me. It went so deep. And I've been sitting with it for the last couple of days, and it's changing everything. It's opening up a whole new level of beingness, of resting in a peace that doesn't seem to come and go as much. And I'm not going to share it in depth here because it's I don't know, how do I say this? It's kind of an advanced teaching or pointing. And he was even pointing out to the student who was asking the question. He was saying, yeah, that teaching that you're talking about now, let that one go now. This is good. Let that earlier one go now. It has served its purpose. You can now open up to and allow another pointing. And sometimes the teachings or the pointings seem to almost contradict the earlier ones, and that's okay. They're meant to meet you where you are and help you to move forward and deepen and awaken more. And sometimes we have a new teaching arrives or a new pointing, And it can feel like, well, that almost invalidates the earlier one. And the answer is, yeah, it does. So the earlier teaching wasn't true. No, it was true for where you were then. So the invitation here is today's satsang is around the one thing, and let it keep changing. But sit with whatever the one thing is for you now. Give it time. Let it take root. Have some patience. We're so in this world of instant gratification and competition and feeling like we're going to get left behind. And we've got to get it figured out now because Bob's figuring it out now and Sheila seems to have it. And I want to be equal. I want to not be left behind. And like anything, right? To rush your piano practice because somebody who's been studying longer, or dang, they're just a Mozart. They're just designed for this. They're where they are. And we are where we are. So to allow whatever grace is calling you and opening you now to be perfect, to be fine, and give it time. Marinate, sit in your meditation and feel into the pointing and allow it to unfold and inform you deeper from within. We were talking about this in my men's group a couple of months ago about how it's so interesting, to watch anyone who's in the same field as you, who's endeavoring in the same general arena as you, whether it be your personal development or spiritual development or a business development. And sometimes we can look and think, wait a minute, I'm I'm better than that person at this thing. I've been studying it longer. I'm more advanced, some aspect of comparison. And to see another person having success and have that frustration of going, why? Wait a minute. How is it that that's happening for them now? And I'm putting in my time and I'm putting in my devotion and I'm putting in my energy and my love. Why isn't it opening for me and revealing itself for me like it is for this other person right now? And in men's group, one of the guys in the group, he shared this beautiful wisdom. He was like, because it's time for them. It has nothing to do necessarily with value or worth or skills. It often has to do simply with, because that is their path and that is their dharma and that is their journey. And we don't know if their quote success is opening up purely for them to move into this life of ease. Their success might be opening up so that they can meet their ego, so they can meet how trapped they get in their success, so that they can meet how success has become their goal and they have lost the thread of what's really important. So maybe that's why they're having the success. So to allow ourselves to be where we are and be with whatever the one thing is that seems to be the key for today, for this week, for this moment, to be opening something deeper within ourselves. And it won't stop. And after a while, what we start to find is that the pointings that are coming from our guides, our teachers, those keep coming. Those are still valuable. But when we rest in what's opening up for us, the next pointing might come from us. It just comes from source more directly. Naturally, we open up into another arena of fertility. And that new fertile ground that is being matured is receptive to the next seed that needs to be planted into that fertility, into that ground of being that is opened up. Oh, it's so beautiful. So to stay in our practice. So let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about where we're meeting the nuance of a teaching, of a pointing that is resonant, perhaps, but wants a little bit more exploration, that wants a little bit more uncovering or nuance. And again, it's like an art form that if you're learning how to paint, you might be kind of getting on to this new technique or learning how to work with a new type of paint, an oil paint, perhaps. And you want to explore into, okay, this is starting to come alive. I want to know more. There's a little nuance that might help make this part of my art form blossom and deepen even more. So if anyone has an inquiry that wants to be explored, then either through chat or through the microphone, please feel free. And for all of us, we can just remain, just take a moment and be in your breath. And feel into the difference between rushing, striving, efforting toward the next thing, towards getting it, towards moving forward, towards grasping. Feel the difference between that and the resting in patience and resting in faith and resting in the vulnerability and the allowing for that which is opening and revealing and blossoming to reveal itself further. In this path of awakening, what are we awakening? We're awakening the consciousness, the unperturbed, unmoving grace of being within which or upon which all thoughts come and go, all opinions, all assessments, all emotional movements. Doesn't mean we don't deny those emotional movements. It's just we witness them and love them and meet them and learn from them from a unmoving grace, and to come into more awareness of and familiarity with what is that grace? What does it feel like? Beautiful. So for you, there's a question in the chat. For you to co-sister someone, to consider someone a teacher, do you have a relationship with them? Do they, quote, know you personally and guide you? No, for me, what I have found is that I have many teachers. It's such a good question. This is good. So no, I've got teachers who I've never met. Do they know me? Yeah, they do. They know me. They know me. They know the real me, the me that I am awakening and allowing. That's the only me that I'm really interested in. Because if they knew me, if they knew my story, the things I struggle with, the things I'm trying to get through, the teachers that I work with, they wouldn't be working with that a whole lot, if at all. They really wouldn't be saying, okay, let's untangle the story. That's the what what the teachers I work with and what I offer as well is the direct path. No matter what is happening within the wounding, no matter what is happening within the egoic story, the image of self, the construct of self that has been developed. What is aware of that? Within what is that movement of mind and thought and image of self and dream of self coming and going? So no, I don't work with teachers who are really saying, all right, Chess, where do you get stuck? And how do you get stuck? I ask that question. Through my practice and my contemplative practice, I ask that question. And then the teaching seems to find me. I'll go on YouTube and I've got to practice. I'll sit in the bath and I'll bring up one of my teachers on YouTube, or in the evening, before I go to bed, I'll bring up one of my teachers and I'll listen and I'll study, and then I'll sit and I'll marinate. And it always I find the teaching that speaks to where I am. And because if where we are is in presence and asking the question that says, take me deeper. What else? What more? Then that question will find its answer. It'll find the teaching, the pointing that is resonant with that. Does that make sense? Does that answer the core, kind of the root of the question? Hmm. Yeah. Oh, I love that's such a good. I'm going to sit with that question. Like these questions that arise. What a beautiful question. And if a question resonates, you sit with it. You feel into it. Do I want to be meeting with teachers that are helping, that are helping me unwind or untangle my story? Yeah, sometimes, absolutely. That's called the indirect path. And it's valuable. It's the personal development. And you want to do your personal development. And then there's other times you're meeting with your teachers who are working with you on your spiritual development. And the ones working with you on your spiritual development probably aren't really looking a whole lot at your story, but opening up your grace so that you can come to rest in your grace and you can meet your own story from your truth. That's kind of the root of the direct path, is not to deny working on our wounding and our conditioning and our programming, but it's to first directly come into a grace, come into a resting knowing of some semblance, some sense of this unmoving grace, so that we can then rest there and then turn and meet the personal story that still needs to be worked with and loved and let go and healed and grieved and all that beautiful work that is done in the personal development. Can we do so from resting in our grace as who we really are beyond that? Beautiful. Here's another question. And anyone who wants to open up their mic, you can you can ask this verbally as well. Can a spark of jealousy become an inspiration for ourselves? How can we allow this inspiration to exist without it becoming surrounded with intense efforting? I'll take the first part. Can a spark of jealousy become an inspiration for ourselves? And by the way, I do want to just say that the only way I can even attempt to answer these or share any insight that comes is just from my own direct experience. I've lived a I've I've had to do a lot of work. This has been a journey. This patience, this idea of patience, it's been a good decade of my life has been really now more on the spiritual awakening, and before that, a lot of time on the personal development because I was really messed up. I was really wounded and really hurt and really lost, and there was a lot of pain. So I only can answer these when I can, because I've been blessed and graced with a yearning for truth and a yearning for beauty, and I've been on this path for a while. So this question around, can a spark of jealousy become an inspiration for ourselves? If I understand that correctly, and I feel back into my own experience of that, I've had a lot of jealousy. I think if you're asking this in the way I think you are, the beautiful pointing is that when we ask to be secure in our being, right? I want to just be secure in myself. I want to be at home. I want to be at peace and not moved so much by jealousy. I want to be secure in my being. Because if you're secure in your being, there won't be necessarily jealousy. So if that's one way of paraphrasing or framing the desire, then life will beautifully show us all the ways that we're not secure in our being. And one way to do that is to bring up a feeling of jealousy so we can look at it and be with it and recognize, wow, where is that? Wow, where's that coming from? Where's my lack? Where's my disconnect? Where do I feel separate from my divine grace? Because truly, if I'm awakened in the wholeness of divine love, of loving awareness, there would not be jealousy in that. So anything that arises that feels small or petty is a beautiful place to recognize, wow, okay, where and how have I gotten away from my practices of being and have been overindulgent in my pursuit of validation, accomplishment, or doing? The body is such a beautiful instrument, antenna of truth, that when we feel petty, when we feel small, when we feel vindictive, jealous, that we can start to go, oh, I must be disconnected from my grace. I must be more identified with the egoic image of self than I am with my rested beingness of love. Beautiful. Because when we return to our sense of peace, our rested grace, when we return to that, how do we feel? We feel good. It's like the body is the beautiful antenna that says, yeah, you return to truth, you feel better. You follow your illusion of self, you follow your stories, you follow your wounding, you listen to it, you believe it, you believe the stories in your own mind, it starts to feel like crap. Oh, what a beautiful antenna. Efforting. How can we allow this inspiration to exist without becoming surrounded with intense efforting? Intense efforting is an identification with the one who so desperately wants to be out of this pain. It's always that question, Fran. It's always that question that says, and within what is that efforting moving? The movement of efforting is happening on behalf of the separate feeling self that wants to be somewhere else. The somewhere else that the separate feeling self wants to get to, wants to arrive at, is what you already are. This is the nuance. This is the beautiful paradox. What we are seeking for is where we are seeking from. We already are what we're seeking. The movie and the screen, I know that one works for you. The movie of I'm not enough. I need to be more. I still have to arrive. That movie, that image, that perception, that projection of mind, that projection of the self-image of separate is playing out upon an unchanging and unwavering consciousness of presence. So when we feel the efforting, when we feel the struggle, when we feel the suffering that says, I won't be at peace until, we just keep pulling back the awareness and saying, wow, and what is that what is aware of that? I am is aware of that. The pure I am is aware of that. Okay, here's a practice you can do, Fran. And all of us. Efforting happens in the mind. Efforting happens in the dance between thoughts and the emotions that are generated by those thoughts. That's the uncertainty. That's the I don't like this. Everything we're doing is around learning to point our awareness. So point your awareness to anything in the room. So I'm looking at a plant right now. Okay. So point your awareness toward anything in the room and notice, where is your awareness? It seems like your awareness is over there on whatever the object is, right? Allow your awareness to move. It's a movement of awareness. So the awareness moves to, oh, there's a plant. So I'm aware of that plant. My awareness has moved to the plant. Okay, good. The object is out there, but you're having some subtle sense of plant. In fact, you're calling, or whatever the object is, you're calling it what it is. I'm calling that plant, but I'm calling it plant where? In my mind. Move your awareness now from the object to the thought of the object, which is actually where the object is occurring. Nothing's happening out there. Everything you are experiencing it in yourself at some level, whether it's in your consciousness or whether it's in your thoughts. But point the awareness now from the object to the thoughts. There's an object out there, but I'm everything, all my experience of it, my thoughts, my assessments, my judgments, my opinions, my naming, all of that is happening in my mind. So now point your awareness to the thoughts and notice how your awareness moves. It moved, didn't it? It went from there to here. Okay. Now, what is aware of your thoughts? Your thoughts come and go. They arise, they're present for a little bit, and then they go. You remain. Something remains stable, steady, unmoving. It has to. It's always there. Thoughts come in and go in and out of awareness, presence. Point your awareness now, point your attention. It moved from the object to the thoughts. Now point your attention to that which is aware of the thoughts, to that which is unmoving, within which thoughts come and go. Where does the attention go? You may start to notice that it doesn't land on a thing. It doesn't necessarily go to a place. Because consciousness isn't a place, and it's not a thing, and it's not an object. The closest word is often a beingness. Point your attention to that, to the unmoving beingness within which efforting sometimes happens. Isn't that beautiful? It's a movement. It's a practice of pointing and moving our attention, so that we don't collapse into the efforting, but we can then say, "Wait a minute. This efforting comes. It wasn't here. It is here now. It will go," and that efforting is happening within what? Oh, that's what I am, and just be more interested in, slightly more curious about, and interested in, and identified with this formless beingness within which all movement of this incredible human story, this incredible human experience is coming and going. It's just that we get collapsed into the movie and we forget it's playing on a screen. The consciousness of self never moves. It is colored by the experience of the mind, body, emotional dynamic. That's just a coloring. Consciousness is never stained by or even changed by that constantly shifting coloring. And we can play with the coloring, and we can enjoy it more when we realize that it is happening upon or within true self, consciousness, watching, loving, allowing. the coloring of wounding, the coloring of pain, the coloring of grief, the coloring of thoughts, I'm not enough. That's a temporary coloring of consciousness, but the consciousness is unstained. Beautiful. So in this, to go back to the original offering or sharing today, the one thing, find the one thing that resonates with where you are now and don't rush past it. And be okay with knowing that that one thing isn't the everything. It's not going to open up the floodgates necessarily where suddenly, this divine grace that I've been looking for is finally fully present. I found the one key that opened up the one door to allow the one grace that I've been looking for. It's like, again, studying an instrument, and you're learning. And it's not that one day your piano teacher says, okay, now here, try this with your fingers, do this. Now see how that changes that a little bit? It's not that that one thing is going to suddenly just pop open. Oh my God, I can suddenly play every piano piece of every composer now. It just opened up everything. No, it opened up what could be opened up today, and that'll open up what's next and what's next and what's next and what's next. So find the one thing that resonates and sit with it for a week or a month or a year or a lifetime. We rush past, we're so impatient to be healed because we believe that our freedom lies on the other side of our wounding. We're already free. We come into some semblance of that, some knowing of that, some small opening of that. And from that, we can go to attend to and allow our wounding to arise so it can be met with love. But the feeling is I have to rush to get to my freedom. I have to heal everything. I've got to figure all of this out so that someday I'll be free. Go directly to the freedom that you are. Any spark of it that is available. And rest in that and allow it and play with it and breathe on it. And so that it will illuminate all the shadow that needs to be allowed and worked on and traversed. Okay. Thank you, Fran. Beautiful. The one thing that arrives for you in any moment that feels like it can be a helpful pointer will be slippery. It just will. It'll be slippery. This thing that arrived for me from Rupert Spira the other evening, man, I've had to sit with it and be with it and allow it and feel into it. And I'm feeling into it in my meditation. I'm going, wow, that's significant. That makes such a difference. And then it kind of goes like, wait, what was that? Wait, what did he say again? Okay, hold on. It was this. It was okay. Now I piece it back together again, and it comes back into vision. It's like it comes in and out of focus. And every once in a while, I got to go back in and go back to the original teaching, the original pointing, and start over again and trace it through and go, oh, that's right. That's what he said. Oh, and there's the experience of it. Oh, interesting. The experience of it will take a while to unfold, to uh, to um, to settle, to ground. It's like concrete, building a house. I don't know if there's a good analogy or not, but you got to let it settle. You got to let it come in firm up. And if you go building upon that with another, I'm looking for the next teaching and the next pointing and the next thing, the thing that's really going to set me free, but this one that really landed for you, if you didn't give it enough time to settle, to firm up, that's it. If you don't give it time to firm up, then you're just building stuff on top of it and it collapses. And the whole thing starts to collapse again and you feel lost again. So let's let our lives be a continuous experience of, this is the one thing that is valuable to me now in this journey of awakening, this slippery and patient journey of awakening. Because as I've said before, if you've been asleep for a long time, and the only identity you've ever known has been the egoic identity, just like coming out of a deep sleep at night, if you wake up in the morning, you don't just pop awake. Coming from a deep sleep, you've been asleep for years. You don't just go, oh, okay, wow, that was a trip. All right, I'm awake now. You wake up. Oh, what? Where have I been? Well, this is interesting. This is back into the dream, and then you wake up again. Oh wow. Oh yeah. That. Oh my God, I've never been here before. This is fascinating. This awakened experience. Back asleep. But after a while, if somebody's there, they keep going, hey, stay with me. Hey, stay with me. Come on, come on, stay with me. That's what every meditation is. And it's not rushing it. Awakening is a lifelong process, a lifelong gift, a lifelong blossoming, blooming. And it's not just one flower, it's a garden, it's a universe. It's all, it's source, it's God consciousness awakened in this human incarnation through our ability to be aware. Oh, what a gift. Okay. Any other questions? Any other ponderings, shares? I hope this is helpful. So sit, ponder, contemplate. This is the beauty of contemplation. It's not figuring out. Contemplation is not figuring out. Contemplation doesn't have a goal of specific arriving. We get to be with our opening, our awakening divinity. We get to be with the clouds of illusion, of egoic identity that get in the way. We get to be in the dance. And I don't know any other way, truly, except for to really, really devote ourselves to whatever it takes to surround ourselves with the people in our lives who can have these kinds of conversations, to set the boundaries that say no to the conditions and situations and people and habits that no longer serve, and to journal and to meditate and to explore and to study for a lifetime and lifetimes, and keep opening, keep expanding. Beautiful. All right. Thank you. Thank you. We're needed. Love is needed. Grace is needed. Not taking everything so personally is very, very much needed. It can be disconcerting the more we awaken into grace, because that which isn't grace becomes so much more apparent. The world cannot awaken without the individual's awakening. Consciousness comes to awaken to itself through each soul expression. And we'll hit a tipping point. We already are. And if it seems like life is that much more disturbing, or if there's that much more tension right now, there is. And it's not because the dark is growing. It's simply because when it's like our own ego body, when we start to come into our true grace, the ego fights back. So as love prospers and blossoms and blooms and grows and expands, it's going to meet resistance within us, and it's going to meet resistance out in the world. Don't fight the resistance with hate or with anger or with derision or with blame or with belittling. Meet it with love. Meet it with what you truly are. As Ram Dass so beautifully referred to it, as unconditional loving awareness. It doesn't mean you don't set boundaries. It doesn't mean you don't point toward truth, towards love, towards grace. Nature is always trying to find its balance. I think I'll end it with this today. When we notice, when we're embodied as loving awareness, and it encounters that which is in resistance to love, that which is in its deep pain, that which is in its anger and derision. When a loving awareness encounters that, it tries to bring things back into balance. You don't just say, well, yeah, it's just the anger in the world. Oh, well. No, love will try, nature will always try to bring things back into balance. So it's okay to set boundaries, and it's okay to have the conversations, and it's okay to try to bring things back into a balance with what is true: compassion, empathy, love, kindness, intimacy, connection, unity. It's okay to work in the world and try to bring that balance back into place, to try to bring light into the shadow. But we don't need to do it from anger and fear and derision and belittling. We're in it. And we're being asked, and it can be hard. I meet it. I meet my judgment. I meet my my fear around, God, it's just to meet what feels to me to be ignorance or fear or small-mindedness or small-heartedness. And that scares me. But then I look and I go, wait a minute, that scared is happening within grace. And I can meet the moment less from the fear and more from the grace. So that's our opportunity. All right, all. Thank you. Again, if you're able to make a donation, I'm going to paste the, I'll do it right now. There we go. Oops. It's not going. Okay. Well, if you'd like to make a donation, you can. Oh, I see why. Okay. I'm trying to post something to somebody who's not here. Just scroll to the top of the chat. There's some links there if you so desire. If you're able, scroll to the top of the chat. There's a couple of links there for helping out with any donations that are possible. I love you. Thank you. Keep doing your work. Keep being a beautiful, beautiful opening and source of love. And we'll see you next Sunday. And if you're on YouTube, again, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And may we all keep aligning with whatever the one thing is that feels resonant for you today. And let it inform you and let it open you and let it work its magic. All right. Blessings all. Be well. Take care.